All right, I'm doing it. You guys wanted a PvE specific guide, so I'm going to bring it to you guys today for the Crossbow Dagger build in Throne and Liberty. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you, the PvE and PvP differences with this build are not too drastic when it comes to this weapon combo, but there are some key things you probably want to know when you are going to be playing in PvE. The first thing we're going to go over is skills, because some skills in PvE are just straight out doo-doo poo-poo. Some mainly avoidable skills in PvE, I would go anything in Dagger like Vampiric Strike, you do not really need. I would even argue Cleaving Moonlights, you don't need Umbral Spirits, not even Knife Throwing, because honestly, reducing the movement speed of a boss and the healing of a boss doesn't make too much sense whatsoever. But there are some obvious key skills that you should be running in PvE that you always run in PvP as well, like your quick fire nimble leap combo is still going to be a main source of damage, and so is your annihilation barrage shot, so things like that you're going to want to keep. But some things I do want to address when it comes into your main skills right here, your quote-unquote ultimate abilities, there's only two of them I would recommend to you. I would not do Wind Snatcher, because the attack speed is nice, the movement speed is okay, but it's not going to benefit you too much in PvE. Mad Sword Dance doesn't do a lot of damage in PvE, kind of a waste of mana. It's pretty mana hungry with 360 cost. Not really worth it at all when you have 85 mana on your quickfire and it just does way more damage than Mad Sword Dance ever will. You have your weak point shot, which will increase the critical damage by everybody in your party. When this is maxed out and it's around the 25 to 20% mark, this is really freaking good for melting bosses. This is great, but if you're not in a well-established group and your group isn't building for critical damage, or you're just looking for randoms and you have no idea what their build is doing, I would almost recommend against weak point shot and go over into Phantom Smokescreen. Why do I say this? With Phantom Smokescreen, you get that 100% evasion chance against ranged and melee projectiles. Now, with certain bosses, this can avoid certain mechanics. I've had times where I've popped this down during Temple of Slaughter and it just blocks the fireball projectile because my tank wouldn't tank all the shots. You know the exact mechanic I'm talking about if you played Temple of Slaughter. But in general, the Temple of Slaughter is just a whole buggy dungeon in my opinion, with all the lagging around and everything. But if you guys don't want to lag so much, why don't we talk about the sponsor of today's video, Exitlag. You lagging while grappling or missing a very important mechanic on any boss in PvE is literally the difference between completing your run and getting the loot you need, or just waiting in queue for a tank or a healer. So Exitlag has you covered so you can maintain lower pings overall. And trust me, it's not just the AAA titles that are on Exitlag. They also have a abundance amount of other titles like indie games, Among Us, 7 Days to Die, which is one of my personal favorites. Now, one of the cool features Exitlag does provide is the Route Optimizer, an AI route optimizer that identifies the best routes for data packets in real time, and this will optimize your connection across over 2,000 game servers worldwide. Now, when you load up Exitlag, all you have to do is go into the top left corner and turn it on. You can actually see down here in your recents tab, of course, Throne and Liberty is right there, and what you could do is optimize your routes, which is going to be good to do. Now, with Throne and Liberty being a massive online MMO, I average about 60 to 70 ping on the daily, but once I installed Exitlag, I went down to 40 ping. Sometimes it shoots up to 45, but it generally stays in the low 40s. Now, with the level of infrastructure over at Exitlag, with over 1,000 servers across 5 continents and 18 million weekly optimizations, Exitlag guarantees superior game performance regardless of your current location. Now, if Exitlag sounds like something you guys are interested in, make sure you use my link down in the description below, and you will get a free 3-day trial. And my favorite personal part about this is you don't have to enter any credit or debit card information to actually get this trial and give it a shot. They do also have a duo and squad option, so you and your buddies can actually split the payments and get all the same benefits at a discounted rate. Anyways, huge shout out to Exitlag for sponsoring this segment of today's video. Now, going into my personal gear and what I like to use, I don't use Mark with any other specialization, just the default Mark. And of course, we have our quick fire with the chain fire and damage increase. We have nimble leap with our consecutive use for the extra charge, and the cooldown reset, so every time we dash, we can spam into a quick fire. Now, Selfless Diffusion, I still have remove CC and the movement speed, just because it's what I like to use, but I would almost argue in PvE, you don't really need to be breaking all these, in my humbled opinion. So, what you can do here is you have these extra points. Now, where we use these extra points is going to be completely up to you, but I'm going to tell you where I would personally recommend them. Over into the Dagger, Lightning Infusion and Thunderclouds Bombing is going to be a must in late game PvE. I've come to learn poison is nice, poison can do damage, but unless you get the poison crossbows that drop from the spider boss later on that deal insane poison damage over time, there's really no reason to be running poison at the moment. So with your Lightning Infusion and Thunderclouds Bombing, I would recommend your first consumption of points will go into cooldown reduction. So when you attack a target with 20 stacks of Thunderclouds Bombing, you decrease the cooldown, meaning during one proc of Lightning Infusion, you could Thunderclouds Bombing twice if done correctly, instead of waiting for your infusion cooldown and then stacking again and going back to bombing. It's just a overall damage increase. And the other one I would use would be over into Lightning Infusion. We have the choice between the duration of the debuff, or a cooldown reduction of Lightning Infusion itself, or the mana cost reduction. We do have 7 points, so we cannot get 2 of these regardless of what we do, unfortunately. What I would personally recommend is the mana consumption, just because the cost is 155 and it brings it down to 116. It may seem little, but it does help out with your mana efficiency in the long run. Now, speaking of mana efficiency, we are of course running the mana exchange with the skill effect enhanced. This is going to be one of your most important skills in PvE, because if you have a good healer, you basically have infinite mana, because every time you do this and harm yourself, you're just trading health for mana, and if your healer is on top of things, you just have infinite mana and don't have to worry about upkeep, and you could keep doing your damage combo over and over again. Now we have to talk about Mother Nature's protest, because this is pretty important. This is going to be your #1 source of losing mana, especially if you activate this on an AoE clump and then you spin to win with your barrage shots. I recommend Lightning for single target bossing, or alternatively, you could put on the Gale arrow for your AoE ad clear. I would just recommend speccing in and out of it. It's not worth putting multiple points into it and then cycling through. If you know you're going to a certain area with ads, swap over to Gale if you really want to. If you're going to a main mini boss or a boss, just pop over into Lightning Arrow. Shadow Strike is going to be your movement ability, and I know a lot of people are going to argue Shadow Strike is something you don't really need in PvE. But I'm here to argue that I feel like there's a lot of bosses, or if you fuck up, let's be honest, we're not perfect. If you mess up certain things with Shadow Strike, you are going to basically avoid it. If you forgot the boss mechanic and you're getting targeted, Shadow Strike through the boss, go to the other side of the boss, and you won't be punished for your lack of knowledge or just something you simply missed. So, with Shadow Strike, I apologize for having the other one on, you actually want the skill distance increase. The skill distance increase is going to make it so you can do it from farther away, which is 20 meters compared to the traditional 14. You're going to be playing at range a lot, and the ability to just press this oh shit button and get on the other side of things, quite literally, is going to be very powerful. Of course, we do have Thunderclouds Bombing with the cooldown reduction and the Lightning Infusion with the mana cost reduction. We already talked about that. For the Barrage Shot, we're putting Annihilation on it so we get the AoE, and then Gale so we could stack a bunch of AoE procs without needing to use a bunch of our mana if you do not want to use the Mother Nature's protest. Invisibility is just going to overall be amazing, especially with the CC break, the CC immunity. Certain boss mechanics will not lift you up, like Cave of Destruction. If you time it perfectly and you pop your camouflage cloak, you just won't be lifted up by the ants, which is pretty cool. Mana exchange we already went over, that's for your mana upkeep. And then Phantom Smoke Screen is going to be a form of group survivability. You could pop this on your healer or yourself, or while you're standing next to your healer, drop it on them, run away, and you're going to make your healer a little bit more survivable. If you have a big brain with this ability, it also aids a lot in your team survivability, reason why I put it there. Your passives are going to be pretty much the same for PvP. There's no PvE specific passives, but a quick breakdown: Piercing Strike for bonus damage and regen, Destructive Fang to reduce the defense of the bosses, Shadow Walker to give you more damage when you use a mobility skill, Detection so when you get hit you get a movement speed and ranged evasion increase, Ambidexterity so your offhand does more damage and you get more range critical hit chance, Nature's Power so when you use a mobility or movement skill you get bonus damage and skill damage, Assassin's Instincts just giving us a raw critical hit chance increase, and then finally Eagle Vision giving us a range hit chance and our weaken chance if you really do need it. Now, going over into the mastery, I know a lot of people asked about this and I went over into a previous video, but so you can watch it all in one place, since I'm probably not going to make multiple PvE videos, I will show you what I'm going to be doing. You want to go first into the bottom tree so you can get all this range damage dealt, cooldown reduction, attack speed, base damage, skill boost damage. Chain Fire is going to be your best tree to start off with. Now, once you complete a whole round at the very bottom, there's only one other tree you could choose, and it stops at these points right here. So, what do we think is going to be better? Do we want range hit chance chance, weaken chance, mana efficiency, range hit chance, heavy attack chance, or do we want healing from our Amatoi or health regen? Now, I recommend, regardless if it's PvE or PvP, you go with the move one right here. Yes, you're not going to hit quick steps, unfortunately, but you will be able to hit cold vision, which is good for PvP, but in PvE, and basically every piece of content, you get calm aim. You get 60 increase to your ranged heavy attack chance. A heavy attack in this game makes it so you do ×2 damage. It's very simple. So if you hit for 80 with your crossbow, if you have a high enough heavy attack chance, you actually hit for 80 ×2, and that is a huge DPS increase. So going here is going to be completely awesome. Or you can do what I'm going to personally be doing. I am going to stop at calm aim because I will be getting 3 points to go here, and you could use the next 3 points to go here. I am going to go up to regen to get the Amatoi healing. That's just for me personally with PvE and PvP because I find that more useful than range hit chance, but that is completely up to you. Going over into the dagger, kind of the same thing. Assassination first for all the base damage and cooldown, right? And then I would go into disguise. If you went all the way into disguise, you get all evasion, which is great to run around with and be more survivable, but you also get the debuff immunity with a overall debuff duration decrease, which will help both in PvE and PvP. You have to remember a lot of the mastery is more scaled towards PvP, just so we have an understanding there. For the Guardians, there is a lot of Guardians in the game, but I will recommend if you are doing PvE specifically, going into our Guardians, this girl right here is going to be your best friend. You get a mana shield that absorbs damage, you get 40% increased cooldown rate, and it's just honestly insane. You could just spam your DPS quicker than before, or if you don't want to take that route, you want to go for the critical hit chance route. If you don't have enough of it, you could go with Elowin, but this is more of a PvP Guardian if I'm being honest with you. As for stats, they're kind of similar to PvP. We have high dexterity, high strength for survivability, and a little bit of perception. I would actually recommend you don't need the perception hit chance in PvE as much right now. Maybe when the later stages do occur. Your main source of damage will be from the 40 dexterity pip, which gives you just 15% raw bonus damage. And if you can hit the 50 strength as well, that will give you 100 heavy attack chance. So if you really wanted to, you can go 40 dex, 40 strength, and the rest into perception if you are maximizing for PvE. As for the gear, I do have a gear guide on my channel that pertains. You're not going to really see PvE only gear sets if I'm being real. I mean, you might see some of them, but not at this stage of the game. What's important on your weapons is your crossbows. Regardless of the crossbows you have or want to go with, I recommend the Rex ones from the Temple of Slaughter due to the bonus damage is insane, the healing sustain on the ability it has, and 11 dexterity is kind of hard to pass up on that. Heavy attack chance will be number 1, critical hit damage will be number 2, and then attack speed increase will be number 3 in terms of trait priority. Over on the dagger, something pretty similar. You would probably also want heavy attack chance in order for your Thunderclouds bombing to have a chance to be just super destructive, critical hit damage as well, and attack speed. But other than that, that is the complete guide on my PvE setup when I do run this build for PvE. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know in the comments down below, and I am welcome to answer any of them. Make sure you check out the rest of my Throne and Liberty content as it does help out the channel. And don't forget to leave a like on this video, subscribe so you're not miss out on another video from me, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you all later.